Hi and welcome to It Café Lockdown. My name's Marek Gabrish and together with Lindsay Duncanson I run It Café. So we're based in and around Newcastle and in particular at the Star and Shadow Community Cinema. We've been going since 2014 and our first Fixit event was actually at the Festival Thrift in Teesside with the help and assistance of Festival Director Stella Hall and our partner Ken Brown. We've been a part of the furniture there ever since. It Café is a community activity. It's an informal fixing workshop where you can come down and find your fix. It consists of myself and a group of committed Fixit people, and we'll have a go at anything from electronics to fabric to woodwork to bicycles and garden tools. And one of the things about Fixit is that we encourage people to roll their sleeves up and get their hands dirty and get involved, take the screws out of things and start pulling things apart. If nothing else, you gain a good idea about how to use tools effectively, and you gain a better understanding of the stuff that you own. Economy. So, circular economy. The standard model has us digging resources out of the earth or harvesting and using that stuff to make more stuff, which then society uses, and when it's finished with it, throws it away, and the eventual destination is landfill. The more stuff that's produced, the more economic growth. The more economic growth, the more money is for everyone, or at least that's the theory. And apart from the inequalities, the problem is with that is that the payback for this has to come somewhere in that chain, and the payback tends to be raw materials and the earth's resources. So, circular economy is where we consume less global raw materials by making less, using less, lowering consumption. We do this by buying less stuff, sharing stuff, making it better, passing it on when we no longer need it, and then if it breaks, we repair it, and if we can't repair it, then we either repurpose it, or at the absolute end of the chain you would recycle it, and then that recycling then goes back into the beginning of the chain, completing the circle. There's much to be done in terms of encouraging standardisation of packaging, local production, reducing fuel miles. You could encourage things like toy and tool libraries. Nobody needs to own their own drill if you can borrow one easily. Pressurising companies that abuse the world's resources, and encouraging legislation and challenging the culture of consumption that we seem to have. So It Café was my response to the sheer quantities of stuff that were needlessly being thrown away, and a culture where we no longer value what we produce and we no longer produce what we value. The thing that galvanised me into action was going to the city tip and seeing the kind of stuff that was being thrown away. It wasn't that long ago that we didn't have recycling bins on our block, and we had to take all of our stuff to the city dump, and seeing what was being thrown away there was quite alarming. A lot of what we do is our ethos is based on Martine Postma's Repair Cafe movement and the Newcastle Makerspace DIY ethos, and the Star and Shadows sort of DIY ethic. And also from a lifetime of fixing items that were difficult or impossible to repair, and my frustration with that. So if I can, I'd like to give you two formative examples, or a tale of two appliances if you like, from the 1980s that illustrate a lot of what drives me and a lot of what drives the arguments towards a circular economy and the right to repair. One of my first flats away from home, I had two household appliances, one of which broke down and the other which didn't. The one that broke down was a Moulinex microwave, and on doing the usual checks, the fuse, I found that there was nothing wrong with it. Changed the fuse, and when I plugged it in, still nothing, no sign of life at all. So I decided, in the absence of the internet, to take the thing apart, and I was defeated by what I now know to be a System 0 or game bit screw, which is like kind of a dome-headed screw with little slots around the outside, which there's impossible to get any purchase on with a normal screwdriver or a spanner or any kind of tool I had in the house. And so I decided to take an angle grinder to it and ground the heads off the screws. And when I finally got into the microwave, I found there was an internal fuse, and the internal fuse, once replaced, it was all good to go. So I put the microwave back together again using posi drive screws this time, and I had many more years of good use out of the microwave. The second device that didn't fail was a Melloware Auto Jug Kettle, which I'd inherited, I think, from the 1970s. It was a rather unattractive brown jug, and eventually the element gave out in that, and with a couple of screws and a rubber washer, I opened it up and put a new element in, and it was good to go again. Or at least it was, until my sister felt sorry for me and bought me a brand new shiny kettle. So reluctantly I got rid of the kettle I'd repaired, which by that time I was feeling quite fond of, and started using my shiny new kettle, and barely over a year later there was a pool of water underneath the kettle that had come from what's essentially a useless window for checking how much water you've got in the kettle. Useless for me anyway, and because I'm left-handed, so it was on this side of the kettle, so you couldn't actually see it. But on closer examination, it turned out that the plastic had all degraded and had started to crack and was now leaking water. So I can only assume that it was designed to fail. And at a community fixing event in the West End of Newcastle, I came across the same Melloware Auto Jug, still functioning after 40 years. So these two examples illustrate the need for the right to repair and better quality of manufacture. With the microwave, to prohibit manufacturers from making stuff that's designed to be unrepairable. With the kettle window, to prevent manufacturers from planning obsolescence, or merely to improve the quality of what they build. Either way, it wasn't fit for purpose. So Fixit Café tells me that there's still a lot of work to be done in all of these areas. So stick with it and keep fixing.